These students redesigned an awful plan, and the result is stunning. In the Dutch city of Utrecht, they want to build 6,000 homes, in the form of a nightmarish labyrinth of concrete blocks and towers. But a small group of traditional architecture students took on the challenge and tried to create an alternative that really fits in the beautiful city of Utrecht. There is a massive housing crisis that must be solved, but the cities are being filled with more and more hideous blocks. And the city of Utrecht is already besieged by monstrous developments. Will these students show another way? In this video, you'll hear about the small summer school in Utrecht and its students, who designed an alternative with beautiful Dutch architecture, canals, streets and squares. We'll also learn how this school belongs to an international movement that tries to revive the skills leading to beautiful, humane and common sense places. So let's get to it. It's July 2024, and with a group of students we explore the historical city center of Utrecht, the fourth biggest city of the Netherlands. The city is located in the center of the country, which makes it an important travel hub in the Dutch train network. If you happen to visit Utrecht and get out at the train station, you might be tempted to get back on the train to leave again, because the station area is a nightmare. It's a chaotic mess of buildings competing for attention, and they continue to build more and more appalling stuff. Or you see them doing silly things like cladding 70s brutalist facades in equally depressing black stone panels. But once you cross the recently renewed shopping mall of Hoog Catharijne and weave yourself through a narrow alley, you enter into the beautiful ancient heart of Utrecht. There's the unique lowered canals lined by cellars housing restaurants, also known as werfkelders. And on the intimate squares there's terraces filled with people having a bite or drinking a Belgian beer. The city goes far back in history. It used to be on the border of the Roman Empire, and the Romans had a military camp here. In fact, the Roman layout is still somewhat visible looking from the sky. Later, they built a cathedral here with the tallest spire of the Netherlands, the Dom Tower of 112 meters tall. The students who are coming along the tour belong to a summer school called Let's Build a Beautiful City, which is organized by the Dutch chapter of INTBAU, the International Network of Traditional Building, Architecture and Urbanism. It's the first day of a 2.5-week program, during which the students will learn about all the things regular architecture schools have decided not to teach about anymore, like lots of hand drawing, how to actually make pleasant streets and squares, and other time-tested ideas and practical design skills. But it's not in the center where our students will design something. For that, we have to go a bit south. Along the canal the Merwede lies an outdated industrial zone called the Merwedekanaalzone. It's a long strip of land enclosed by the canal on the eastern side, a wide road on the western side, a development with some towers on the south, and another busy road with an outdated industrial park to the north. There are still some buildings standing there, but not for long, because this plot of land offers the unique opportunity to build massive amounts of housing. And that's needed, because the Netherlands has a housing shortage of 400,000 homes, many of which are needed in cities like Utrecht. So they're planning to redevelop this commercial zone into a new neighborhood with 6,000 homes. And that is super dense for a place with only 25 hectares. It will also be car-free, with a lot of space for cycling and pedestrians. So let's look at the good, the bad and the ugly of this plan. First of all, it's good that the plan offers so many homes, giving more people a chance to live in Utrecht. Also, the density makes sure that shops and services can survive here. Another good point is that they include a lot of greenery, which is good for biodiversity and cools the area down on hot days. Also, making it pedestrian and cyclist friendly is great. Utrecht is a real cycling city. Everything is quite close by, so in theory it should work. They plan to have a lot of places for children to play and seem to have thought well about connecting the area with surrounding areas. But unfortunately, not all is well. First of all, the density might be too high. Although density can be good, they make it so dense that the disadvantages start outweighing the benefits. There will be many buildings taller than 7 stories. Even a tower of 100 meters is planned. This will lead to dark, gloomy streets. Even though they do plan to use setbacks, which is good, with 10, 14 and 18-story buildings looming overhead, you will inevitably get dark streets, especially in the dark Dutch winters. With nice architecture this can be alleviated, but let's return to that topic later. With buildings that are too tall, you lose the connection with the street level, which is something the Danish architect and urbanist Jan Gill warns for. Also, tall buildings get more complex and expensive to build, requiring bigger technical installations, and egress regulations become stricter too. Better is to have gentle density, which is promoted by the British design consultancy Create Streets. With buildings up to 5, 6 or 7 stories tall, that still allow sunlight to reach the street, while also still achieving significant density. Because raw numbers aren't everything. quality of life matters too. The biggest drawback has to do with the courtyards. The buildings and towers are configured in a sort of closed building blocks, which is good. But the real benefit of a closed-off green courtyard is that it is an ideal place to let young children play unsupervised. However, the people who planned this decided, as can be clearly read in the plan, that the inner courtyards will be publicly accessible. This means that any random, shady person can decide to enter those courtyards whenever they want. Obviously, when you are a parent of young kids, you do not want that. I'm guessing that it's fashionable to have everything accessible nowadays, but it's just a really stupid choice. Before we move on to the ugly part of this design, I finally launched my new website with an overview of beautiful urban design projects around the world and my videos. To make that website, I use Squarespace, the sponsor of today's video. Squarespace makes it super easy to create a completely personalized website using their new design intelligence system, a cutting-edge AI tool to empower anyone to create a beautiful or personalized website tailored to their unique needs. Squarespace also offers an integrated payments tool, scheduling of client bookings, setting up email campaigns, and it's all super easy to use. Check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/theaestheticcity to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. The worst about this plan is what they want it to look like, leading us to what we see is a proliferation of cubes and towers with forgettable generic architecture. Does this look like it belongs to this city? Judge for yourself. Many of the buildings haven't been designed yet, but we do know what they want it to look like. In the vision document, the municipality shows 4 places they want to use as inspiration. Let's do a little quiz. Which picture is in Paris and which one is in Hamburg? I can imagine that was hard. The architecture is so generic and bland that the buildings could be swapped and nobody would notice. But when local architecture is used, it is super easy to tell where you are. Most people prefer architecture that gives a place a clearly recognizable identity. But modernist architecture erases that identity, leading us to feel lost in a sort of endless office park or airport terminal. The new city district will be inspired by places that lack warmth, character and beauty, and with weird architecture. And I wonder if you have such a special city center that attracts millions of tourists each year. You clearly have an incredible source of inspiration you could use as a template for new neighborhoods. Why not use that as inspiration, instead of making something so terribly average it makes your eyes bleed? By the way, it's funny how they use a lot of greenery in their images. It's almost as if they try to hide the bland, forgettable architecture. In short, I just believe that Utrecht can do better and deserves better. Is there another way to design? Well, as viewers of this channel will know, there absolutely is. We can look at places like Le Plessis-Robinson, for example, where they were able to create a place that feels like it's in France, first of all, more specifically in Île-de-France, and where they managed to create a blend of dense neighborhoods with stunning public and private greenery. So why do the designers of this plan design the way they do? Well, there are architects and planners who can still design traditionally. Perhaps not enough. Another big problem is that common sense urban design, according to traditional principles, is not fashionable among urban planners, civil servants, politicians and developers. To change how we build, we need more education about traditional design principles. And that is where the Utrecht Summer School comes in. Like I described in my video about education, architecture education has changed quite a bit over the years. What currently lacks is any training on how to design new buildings and new places that use traditional design wisdom. So together with a number of talented people at INTBAU Netherlands, we decided to start a summer school in traditional architecture and urbanism, right in the heart of Utrecht. And this program is a first in the Netherlands. It is a 2.5-week program for 25 students from all backgrounds and diverse ages. The program begins with a tour through the city, where the students experience the beautiful medieval center of Utrecht. The next day they get their first lectures, and they start at the very beginning, with the basics that students used to learn back in the day. The classical orders, their proportions and a lot of hand drawing classes. Of course, we don't only draw architecture. We really want the students to get a feeling for how urban space works, how big streets and squares are in practice. And they learn that by measuring and drawing accurate sections, plans and elevations. Measured drawing is a forgotten skill, but it's essential to get a real grasp on the physical environment and its dimensions. The rest of the week, more lectures follow about a variety of topics, from greenery to traditional building materials, classical proportions and history, to traditional urban design and planning. There's even an online lecture with Leon Krier, the designer of Poundbury. And the architects of Cayala in Guatemala visit to guide the students. It's amazing to see how the students lose themselves in the hand drawing and how they slowly but surely become friends. There's also field trips to places like Brandevoort, Amsterdam, Buren and Opburen near Utrecht. And then it's time to start the final design project. And by now you can probably guess what place we chose for the students to design. The Merwedekanaalzone. It all starts with a field trip to see what is there, and after a sort of design charrette, groups are formed, based on a general theme which unites these groups. Gradually the plans come alive, with streets, little squares and canals. They only have a week, so there's not a lot of time to endlessly experiment. At intervals they present their plans, which need to offer thousands of homes, although not necessarily the 6,000 of the original plan. The students think about many factors like traffic, noise and sunlight, but also at how to make the new design fit the city of Utrecht, with its unique character, urban fabric and architecture. Some of the students are insanely gifted, and as they work on their final drawings, these skills start to shine. And everything is done by hand. There's no AutoCAD or Revit inside, because we want the students to become comfortable with the medium of paper, pencil and pen. By the way, this summer school is part of a bigger movement of traditional architecture summer schools, with many more popping up all around the world. Like the one in Mexico I was fortunate enough to attend. This was truly something. Or the one organized in Bruges by La Table Ronde d'Architecture, which has been running for some years. Or the very recent new school in the Alsace, by the same organization. And then there's the school founded in Norway, where beautiful watercolors are being produced by the students. In the US there's a new school coming in Charleston, South Carolina, organized by the City Makers Collective. I've included a link to their website below. By the way, if you like this video and think these themes are important, please subscribe to help the channel grow. All these summer schools are founded to offer an alternative to regular modernist architecture education that tends to be hostile to traditional ideas about architecture. Every year, a new wave of students graduates with a fresh, alternative view on how we can build cities, and these waves of students get bigger and bigger. After some days of hard work, the students finish their designs and attach them to foam boards in order to present them for the jury. It's a hectic day, but rewarding, and the 6 final designs created by the 6 groups in barely a week are stunning. Some have meandering streets lined by traditional Dutch houses and apartment buildings. There's cozy squares featuring fountains and public buildings. Canals are introduced, lined by trees, and harbors where people can moor their boats. Streets are planned to create vistas of important landmarks. Most of the plans feature inner green courtyards where children can safely play, and many have an attractive waterfront opening up to the canal. One design has a canal that splits in two and forms an island, and a park crossing over the road to the park on the other side. Another design goes all out in a monumental frenzy, opening up the canal with an impressive promenade. The contrast with the official plan is enormous, but of course these plans aren't fully fledged alternatives. But they could be, and they show an image of what else is possible. They are exciting and beautiful, and isn't that what new city districts should be? Finally, what the students design here on this summer school would not be accepted at many architecture schools. They would be ridiculed or fail their exams, because it does not follow the modernist dogma that most architecture professors insist on. Here they are liberated from this fear and worry, and they have true freedom to design what they really want, without self-censoring. But enough from me. What do the students have to say about this course?
Going in, I was very open-minded about what I would learn, given that I was essentially starting with very little base knowledge information. The program itself has been absolutely expertly run. There's a really amazing mix of hands-on skills as well as lecturers by really knowledgeable professionals.
The amount of nationalities there are here is just crazy. I mean, it's almost 20 and you don't meet that many people from around the world anywhere else.
There is experts, teachers here, and they teach a lot of things in a very short period of time.
I find this experience really enriching, as one can not just learn the theory but actually see it in practice. You can experience the environment and dissect the entire city and then transform it into a new design.
I think it's really opened the door for me to understand a lot more about the existing traditional and classical buildings. I mean, we're surrounded by it, especially in Utrecht. Now, having the knowledge to actually read them and understand them as a language even deepens the beauty of the architecture. And I think it's something that can be brought into a lot of projects going forward.
Although we cannot change what is built at the Merwedekanaalzone, The Utrecht Summer School shows us a vision of what else is possible and reminds us of the choices we make in the city. Do we build generic, boring blocks? Or human-skilled, beautiful architecture that fits the location? The program has run for 3 years, and we aim to continue and improve it until one day we can either start a full university or existing universities start including traditional architecture and urbanism in their curriculum. If you want to come to Utrecht, you're always welcome to apply. Just keep in mind there's limited spots available, so I included a link to a list of other summer schools where you can also apply. Also, we're always looking for sponsors and donations to make the school even better. Find more information on how to help in the same link. I realized that taking 3 weeks off is quite challenging for many with a full-time job. Or maybe there's other reasons why traveling doesn't work for you. That's why I'm working on an online course to make sure that more people can learn about these super important topics. You get a ton of value while also saving buying a plane ticket. I'm working hard to get it ready early next year. Subscribe to the waiting list and be the first to know. The summer school in Utrecht is just a young experiment. But when I see how big the impact is on the participants, I feel very hopeful for the future. They cannot wait to use this knowledge in practice. So I'm sure that we will go back to more beautiful cities. I'm 100% sure of it. So that's it for this video. A big thank you to our patrons, thank you for watching, and till next time.